Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic. So our last guest that we had on the show was frustrating and interesting all at the same time.
I don't disagree with you. I think more frustrating than interesting, but, to each their own.
We've been having on for like the past year now, this Jackson Horn. He found us on Instagram. And when we first met him, he was an aspiring comedian. I've noticed of late I don't hear him talk about being a comedian. I hear him talk about being a computer programmer. But
unless he was trying to be funny when he was on our podcast. Huh?
But whatever. I don't think so. I don't think that episode had anything to do with him being funny. But it brings up the topic that is pretty interesting. And that is
freedom? Question mark?
What is freedom? How free are we really? Because according to Jackson, the fact that he could drive a car makes him free. And the fact that he can eat whatever he wants makes him free.
But can he eat whatever he wants?
Exactly. I mean, he can't have, the most expensive food on the planet because he doesn't have the money for it. So you can't define freedom by things like that. It's actually a really stupid way to define freedom.
It's an extremely capitalist way to define freedom.
But it's like he refused to hear what I was saying.
Right.
The entire conversation became this situation about him insisting that this, that, or the other thing was freedom. And me explaining to him that anything that has limitations is not true freedom.
So because he wouldn't really let us have a conversation, we decided we're going to discuss what freedom is now.
Yeah, so like the definition of freedom, the actual dictionary definition
Might as well start
of freedom
there.
Is, and this is from the Oxford Dictionary, the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants, and here's the key part, without hindrance or restraint.
Seems reasonable.
Now, I talk about freedom a lot on Liberty Revealed because, it's about
liberty.
People's liberty, which is basically about their freedom. And I think there's degrees of freedom, but there's only one real freedom. And that means you don't have encumbrances. You can just be yourself, do what you want. And that's freedom. And I think an individual could have freedom within a relationship.
But I don't think anybody has ultimate freedom anywhere in the world.
No, it's limited because, like I said, I could have freedom in a relationship because I could be able, with you, I could just be myself, whoever I am, right. and you accept it. And granted, even that though, I'm going to tell you, I don't even think that's freedom, and here's why. Because ultimately, there's a caveat that needs to be there, and that is, you can't be purposely rude and insulting to people either.
Well, yeah.
Because you have to think of their feelings, but that's an encumbrance, that's a restraint. So, is there really anything such as true freedom when you have a situation like that? Well, I think if on the bigger picture, the government let you do whatever you wanted to do, how you wanted to do it, without constantly attempting to save our lives, I think then we would have true freedom.
Okay.
So let's talk about why being able to drive a car is not freedom.
I can't drive a car because I haven't gone to the DMV and gotten a driver's license. I am not free to drive a car. I lack that privilege.
Because it's a
You
privilege.
can drive a car because you have gone to DMV and gotten a license to drive that car.
And I've
You've
paid for
been
my
granted that
insurance,
privilege.
And I paid for my registrations. I paid all my taxes. Because let's face it, insurance is a tax. It's like a bond. And license fee, it's a tax. Registration, it's a tax. It's a car tax. It is what it is. So
You don't necessarily need those things to drive because you could drive a rental car, you could drive a different car.
but then you'd be
whatever.
driving illegally.
You
So,
don't need
once
your
again,
own
there's
insurance or registration to
encumbrances.
drive a rental car. You need their insurance or some
But that's
kind
having
of insurance.
insurance at that point.
Or you could drive your
So-
friend's car or whatever.
Now let's talk about why being able to eat whatever you want isn't freedom.
Can you eat whatever you want? Or are you required to give them something in exchange for that food?
You mean I can't just walk up to the buffet when we're in Vegas and just start eating the food without paying?
No. Mm-mm.
I can't. I'm not free to do that.
Mm-mm.
I don't have that freedom.
No, but you have the privilege to eat whatever you want after you've paid them $65.
Exactly. Now you've got it. And that's what bothered me about that evening was that he refused to hear those kinds of things. And he kept telling me what I think. But he didn't know what I think.
And then you found, like the very next day, you found that thing that ranked countries from freest to least free.
There were 60 countries that they ranked.
And the U.S.
The United
was...
States came in 58.
And the other country we like to talk about, because I am Canadian, was ranked...
Brazil is the other place we rank, isn't it?
No, you turd sandwich.
You mean Colombia? I know what you mean. You mean France.
So how was
His
Canada
other
ranked,
cousin,
you dingle?
Canada. France's other cousin, Canada.
How's Canada ranked?
Second.
So does that make any sense? Canada, the country that everybody calls kind of socialist, they shove it up your butt for all of the taxes, shove universal health care down your throat, you're required to do all these things. Canada, the country with apparently no freedom, is more free than the United States?
On whatever the
What?
scale is that they were using, yes.
So I've kind of figured out one of the main criteria that they must have used, because it's like the only big one I can think of. Well, other than the legalization of marijuana, but, besides that.
Mm-hmm. What is it?
Drinking, smoking, and marijuana, I suppose.
Except I could make the argument that you're actually more strict than we are.
How?
I can't. You told me that if I'm under 18, I can't go into a place where they're selling alcohol. And you told me that's why Costco has to have a completely separate area of their building closed off to the main building to sell alcohol. Is that correct?
Yes. However, when you're 18 and you're legally an adult, you can go into that separate area of Costco and you can buy your alcohol because you're an adult and you get that. You get to do that.
But we can always go into that area from the very beginning. So what the only difference is what age at which you're allowed to drink.
Is exactly what I was saying, you dingus.
But the whole point is, I don't see how giving you. I see a flaw in your argument. I see what you're saying. I do. I get it. But here's the flaw that I see in your argument. Just because you came in second doesn't mean your drinking law is better. Because
Did I say it was better?
You allow them to drink. You said that's one of the reasons for the better ranking on freedom, and I don't think it is.
I say they're more free
because
they're letting adults make their own decisions instead of restricting them for 3 years.
But there's still a law that restricts you to a certain age.
Oh my God.
So why is it
we
that
were
it's
in agreement
sooner?
in this when we discussed it last
but I've
time,
been
and now you're
thinking
being a
about it.
giant jackass about it.
But I'm not being a jackass. So now let's talk about that. So it's a jackass. Someone's being a jackass when they tell you what they really think after they've thought through an issue. That makes them a jackass?
No, the talking over me makes the jackass. That's all. You're allowed to disagree all you want.
I've been trying to get my point across.
Well, if you'd let me finish mine.
Alrighty.
You turd. I already finished it. Hello.
Then why would you just say, if you let me finish mine?
If you had let me finish mine.
Anyway. what are some of the other examples he was giving that were just completely asinine and off the wall wrong?
I can't remember because, to be honest with you, I stopped paying attention to that podcast about halfway through because he was just repeating himself.
You really shouldn't admit that. You really shouldn't admit that you weren't paying attention to your own show, but I get it.
He said the same thing 97,000 times in a row. So I used my freedom and I stopped listening.
Well, yeah, there was over an hour and like 20 minutes worth of audio, and it got cut down to like 32 minutes.
Yeah.
For a good reason.
Yeah. Fabulous.
A lot of the same comments were made over and over again, probably from my side more than his side.
You both.
Because he would try different things each time, and I'd just keep coming back to the same thing. But there's a limitation. Explain to me how if there's a limitation, that's freedom. Or, oh, I get to drive. Well, no, you have to have a driver's license. Then you can drive.
Can you list one thing for me that you aren't limited on? One thing. One single thing.
Some people, this one surprises people. Some people think that, oh, I own my house. But what happens if you don't pay the property taxes?
Then you don't own your house
They
anymore.
take your house. So if they can take your house, you don't actually own your house.
You know, I could make the argument that you would be free if you purchased your own island. You could have significantly more freedom on your own island.
Only if that island was independent of any other government.
Right. You would have to purchase said island, and then you would have to make it your own country.
Pretty much.
And not let anybody else in, because anybody else would just hinder your freedom.
Well, yeah, and you know, if you think about it, that's one of the complications of a situation like this, because your rights begin where my rights end and vice versa. So the only way for me to truly be free and have zero encumbrances is to just be by myself somewhere. It's really the only way.
Right.
Because otherwise, there's always going to be restrictions. You know what? We're a lot alike, you and I. We're a lot alike, but we're also a lot different.
There's a dog sleeping on my butt.
So nobody cares, though. There's a cat letting me pet him, but nobody cares.
Sorry.
So, you know, we're both alike, but we're also both different in a lot of ways.
Right.
And so there's going to be things where you're going to be like, I don't really like that. So, you know, you can still go do it, but you're going to have to find somebody else to go with you. Well, that makes it complicated because then you got to find that person. You have to actually want to go to that thing with that person, whatever it may be, you know. Like I talked to you about the Monster Jam. If you had said no, but you can go ahead and go yourself if you can find somebody to go, I wouldn't have known who to ask. I would have just not gone.
I told you can import my brother and go with him. He'd be so happy. If we get a picture of Gravedigger at the Monster Jam, he's going to like pee his pants.
That's funny. But I think I don't really think there is a situation where you're truly free when you dig down into the daily details. I think freedom more comes from the freedom we're talking about. More comes from that higher level, from the government to you and you back to the government. So, like, how do you like that the state of California, if you incorporate here and you don't file your annual statement of officers, which is a whole, by the way, $25 to go online and fill out a web form, have the privilege of filling out a web form, and most of the time you're checking a box that says this area stayed the same, this area stayed the same, this area stayed the same, and you're paying the state $25 tax for that. If you don't pay that tax and you don't put that form through every year, they'll take your corporation away from you.
We should not talk about the state of California and their laws, because me and the state of California, we're having a problem right now, and that's a topic for a different night.
Yeah, it's a really bad situation here. It really is. So we don't have freedoms in this state at all, in my opinion.
I'm 1,000% offended after January 1st.
Wow. This cat hasn't resurrected for days. I haven't seen her. This is the first time.
I think she's done being mad.
And I'm very happy seeing her. I like her.
Ow.
Now, ultimately, it seems like we've concluded that on an interpersonal level, you'll never have freedom unless you want to be an asshole.
I don't even... you don't even have the freedom to say whatever you want, even if you don't give a shit if you're an asshole. Because you can't go out and say something that's not true about somebody, or they'll sue you.
But you can still say it.
But you'll get sued.
But you can still say it.
Or thrown in jail.
You won't get thrown in jail for
racism.
saying something. Only if it's tied to a crime. Then it turns that crime into a hate crime.
So you can go up to just
Like, did you
people
hear
and yell
about-
racist things at them as much
Sure.
as you want?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's nice.
But that's a civil issue. That's not a criminal issue. And even then, what law did they violate?
Well, I
by
thought hate
calling
speech was
you
criminal. Because hate speech is criminal in Canada.
No.
My bad.
Only when it's attached to a crime. And that's what they did. They recently somebody got shot, and when they went to research like the warrant, when they served the warrant, they found things that were anti, like, I don't remember what race these people were, but let's say they were Filipino. Well, that's not even a race, but let's say they were Asian, and there was all this anti-Asian propaganda. So they turned it into a hate crime because they said this person clearly was motivated by their hatred of that group of people.
Is making it a hate crime just like a score multiplier? Like you're
like
gonna get fucked by the penal code, but you're gonna get fucked times 4 by the penal code if there's a hate crime attached.
Yes.
Got it.
Now imagine. I'm glad you clarified that. But now imagine that you find yourself in that situation and they're charging you with a hate crime. I mean, wow. That's just wild. And like, why are there people who are so angry with other people and hate them so much that they would single them out?
I have to tell you something funny that kind of relates but kind of
Because that makes no sense to me, that part.
That's fair.
I can't wrap my brain around that. Just like I can't wrap my brain around just walking up to somebody and blowing them away. I could understand if I was coming in the house and some guy was like trying to rape you and he had you pinned down or whatever, he would be one hell of a dead man at that point. He would be, because I'm going to defend you. But I can't understand just walking up to some random person and blowing them away. And in both cases, you're killing somebody. But I guess that's the difference between killing somebody in self-defense and cold-blooded murder. I don't get.
Can I tell you
anyway,
something
yes, I want to
funny
hear your story. Sorry,
Okay,
I went on a tangent.
It's okay. It's okay. We needed to take a step back to where we weren't killing people, but we were just hating them all. I was talking to my mother today, and she was telling me all sorts of interesting things. But she also told me that she had called my grandmother's sister. So
Okay.
my grandma's she passed away in like the year 2000, so it's been a while. But then my aunt passed away last year, and nobody told my grandma's sister. Nobody told her until like 6 months later. So
What? That's
not the funny part of this story.
What?
Just saying. Yeah, that's a thing. That's another, anyway. So my mom was like, Auntie Margie, she just hates everyone. She doesn't have anything nice to say about anyone. She hates all people. And I was like, me and Auntie Margie, we could be best friends. And my mom, like, she cracked up. Like, there was some serious chuckles there. Anyway.
That's funny.
That's that.
So our neighbor that used to live over here with the husky sent me a Facebook message with a picture of our friend Mouse, who's getting so big. And says she's very content. The mouse is very content at the house.
The mouse in the house?
And then I asked her how things were, and she says, I love living here in Corona in a house. We miss you guys and a couple of others, but not many. LOL.
That's funny.
They're nice people. But, that's a funny story.
Thanks.
That's a funny
I got lots
story.
of funny stories out of my mom today.
Because, well, you have this thing that you do, which is I find really intriguing. Like, you'll just, like, have your head down and be, like, buried, balls to the walls for hours and hours, days and days, weeks and weeks. And then all of a sudden, you won't talk to your mom much. And then all of a sudden, you'll pop up out of the, head in the ground thing and, like, call your mom, like, this week, the next week, and the next week. And then you'll go, like, weeks and you won't call her again.
Well, I
It's
forgot
the
to call her on
weirdest
New Year's
thing.
Eve because I fell asleep. And then I sent her a picture of the dog bite on my hand. And that's also a story for another day.
Yes,
I
we
got
will have
bitten
that
by a
episode.
dog.
We will have the Darth Vander episode. It's coming, the Darth Vander episode.
Watch out for it. It's going to be great. Watch out for Darth Vander, too. He's an aggressive little jerk. Anyway, so she wanted to know what happened, and it was kind of long to explain in Facebook Messenger, so I just called her. And then I ended up talking to her for 2 hours about all sorts of weird shit and fixing her computer.
You know, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That would happen. That's cute. I was going to say, you know, there's things you can do for cuts like that. You know that, right?
Cuts like what?
Where the dog bit you.
I'm sure.
I mean, there's so many things you can do.
It's the bruise that I'm more worried about.
Like I'm telling you, everybody's heard about CBD, right? That's the newest rage. But did you know that like any other health-related product, there's some very important differences that everyone has to consider before they, you know, make a purchase? And part of it is because with CBD, the market has quickly become flooded with some inferior products. So it's really hard to pick the one that works. Kind of like we had that, what is that stuff called? Elixicure? Stuff is great.
Yeah, I was just looking for it to put it on my dog bite.
Stuff is great. But what we've learned is that here at Yogi's Podcast Network is that we trust CTFO CBD products. And in particular, we love their 10 times Pure Gold Super 1000. Now, CTFO has products that will help with your skincare, health, weight control, and even your pets. Man, little dude probably use some of this. 10 times Pure Gold gives you a full spectrum CBD oil that others just don't supply. They're manufactured in the USA using certified GMP manufacturing and a patented delivery system. 10 times Pure Gold Super 1000 is one amazing product. It even comes with a 60-day, hear this, 60, not 1 month, 2 months, empty bottle money back guarantee. You can use it all up over a 60-day period and still return it. No questions asked.
Does that mean we could return it after the demon dog ate the bottle?
And you will feel the difference almost immediately. So if you want to get your hands on 10 times Pure Gold Super 1000 with zero risks, go on over to yogispodcastnetwork.com/CBD today. Now, yes, we will make a small commission, but you pay nothing extra, and you're going to get the highest quality CBD on the market today. So get going with CBD today at yogispodcastnetwork.com/CBD. So I think you need some CBD cream for your doggy bite.
You should 100% get it for me and put it on my hand when we're done.
I will. I'll have to find it. I don't know where it is. And knowing how many times that basket has fallen on the ground, it could be anywhere. Oh, you have it. Okay, good. But that, I think, CBD would fix that. And I think people should try the, yogispodcastnetwork.com/CBD.
And let us know what you think.
Let us know what you think. So, it's new year, new business focuses. Things are going to be different. It was interesting because the videos that I created today were kind of revolving around that, because he's talking about, new year, what you're going to do, kind of thing. And that was the guide pointing you in that direction. And it really got me thinking about the fact that, now that things are humming, you gotta get focused, because then the more focused you get, you're going to find the little flaws and fix them so that you grow even more.
I suppose so.
So that's where I'm at tonight. I think that we've sort of concluded that there's no such thing as freedom I was saying this before. There's no such thing as freedom on an interpersonal level, but there's freedom if you let the government stay out of your business.
I think that if anybody's listening can tell us a single situation or something where they're completely free and nobody is hindering their existence, that they should email us. And we will pick the best one and send them a gift card or something.
Yeah, and we can mention them on the air.
Yeah, so do it.
Keeping an eye out, because the Zoo Media Network is coming back in a completely different manner. Coming to a Roku near you. Zoo Media Network. Be ready.
With all new content.
Be
fancy, exciting
ready.
things.
So, that's all I've got tonight. You got anything left?
Just the ambition to hit my pillow. Good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye. freedom. Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.